see and hear everything okay, hopefully. And we'll go ahead and get started. So we made it through Christmas, and now we've got to get through New Year's. So I thought I'd give you something really quick and fun to do for this Monday. I'm actually on my way out the door right now. So what we'll do here, let me get the chat up here, is I'm going to be talking about a riff. And it's nothing fancy. We're just talking about a Whole Lotta Love by Led Zeppelin today. And the reason I want to talk about this, maybe you know this, maybe it's an old song for you, maybe you've played it 1,000 times, but that isn't the case for everybody. What I do want to talk to you about is the importance of finding songs that do two things. Number one, they keep you motivated. Hey, Rob. Hey, Jamie. They keep you motivated. And number two, they focus on certain elements of your playing that you want to focus on. Hey, Lance, Ultimate Stuff. Hey, Bob. Thank you so much for everybody for being here. So if you think about it, like when I was a kid, when I first started learning how to play guitar, it was because I loved Ozzy and I loved AC/DC and I loved Kansas and I loved Styx and I loved all these bands, which is the reason I started playing. And then when I was playing, you know, my teacher was giving me like exercises to use with a metronome, and that is really important to do, okay? But think of it this way. If you ever lose your motivation and you're just feeling like, God, I'm so sick of doing the same things over and over and over, remind yourself why you started playing in the first place, which was to play songs that you liked. And what I found is if I can incorporate with students, if I can incorporate songs that they like with techniques that they need to focus on and put the two together, we've got a win-win. So if we think about Whole Lotta Love by Led Zeppelin, for instance, the most important part of this is this kind of riff. Now, if for some reason you're, for instance, learning how to downpick, okay, or you want to learn how to downpick faster, you try and find songs that focus on downpicking. So for instance, let me get this little thing out of the way here. There we go. Hey, John, Matthew, Mountain Laurel, Jack Waters is here, Mark Smith, Linda is here, Carlos is here. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. So if you think about the riff, what I'm doing is I'm doing a strum on E on the 7th fret of the 5th string, and then I'm going to palm mute on the 6th string. Now, there's two things here, and again, you might be able to do this wonderfully already, but that doesn't mean that everybody else can, okay? So there's two things. Number one is the speed of the downpicking and getting comfortable with being able to do a comfortable and relaxed downpicking. And the second thing is being able to shift between downpicking and strumming. Because if you think about it, you're strumming this E, and then right away on the next, we'll call them 8th notes. So if I'm going on the next 8th note, I need to move to my 6th string and I need to start palm muting. So I go strum, palm, palm, palm. So a group of 4, I'm strumming and then I'm palm muting 3 times. So if you think about just that one little riff, again, whether you love the song or not is really, because you could find any song that you enjoy that would fit this idea. But if you think about it, you're learning how to downpick at a certain tempo. You're learning how to strum and then mute, and you have to be able to do that in time, right? So you might need to slow this down or whatever. And then also what I find with students too is finding that ideal palm mute position where the hand needs to be. You know, if you move back too far, you don't really get much of a palm mute. If you move too close, then you wind up killing the string. So every guitar, what you need to do is figure out where that ideal spot is. And of course, I'm using this kind of karate chop part of my hand. That's where I go to find that spot. Okay? So this is just a perfect example of what I use with students to learn how to do some palm muting. Okay? So we take that. And of course, if it's comfortable for you, you can always speed it up. But the most important thing is understanding that you can use songs that you already love, that you love to play, and it doesn't have to be the whole song. Maybe you don't know the whole solo, maybe you don't know all the riffs to the song, but if you just take one element out of there and play it, you know, maybe that'll inspire you to play the rest of the song or not, and it doesn't matter. It's fine if you only learn a riff and move on to something else. So I am going to do different riffs and different licks and things like that on these Monday motivations as well to give you different things to think about in your playing, okay? So if we tag the first part of this, okay, what I'm doing there is I'm playing the 7th fret of the 6th string to the 5th fret of the 5th string. So I'm using my 3rd finger and my 1st finger. And I'm kind of palm muting the 6th string one, and then I'm allowing the 5th string to ring out there, okay? So again, maybe you're new to playing single notes and attaching them from one string to the next, right? This is a perfect little example of trying to get comfortable with getting them, because it's not always just the application, it's how does it sound, right? How does it sound to you? How does it sound to a listener? Does it sound right? Does it sound real, right? Okay, and you'll see I'm even tagging a little bit of a blues bend on that 5th fret, right? And then I've got to move up and I've got to start that next idea. Right? So as you play, don't worry about how fast you're doing it. Focus on the elements that make it sound good, right? That make it sound real. That's what you want to be trying to do. Sam says, I add the open D string with that bend, which is perfectly fine. No problem at all. Again, I'm not worried about whether or not you play the songs exactly like the album, and I want you to play it the way that works for you and is fun for you and is motivating for you. That's what's most important to me. And the great thing about songs are, instead of always just playing along with a metronome, and again, don't get me wrong, playing with a metronome is incredibly important. But there are times when you just want to grab a song and you just want to kind of have some fun. You could set a metronome for this if you wanted to. But it's just a great riff to start learning how to do some single note connectivity and then be able to do down picking, focus on strumming and palm muting. You know, I always think like, I don't want to play too much because then, you know, YouTube might shut this down. But if I'm going, you know, all that kind of stuff, when you're playing, oftentimes you're playing a straight, you know, stream of 8th notes or 16th notes or whatever it might be. But then there's sequences where you're palm muting and then you're strumming, and you've got to be able to do those back and forth, right? Let's see here. Tom says, what songs would you recommend for right hand up and down strumming? Well, there's a couple things you can do. Now, for just strumming, like acoustic strumming or something like that, I still need to make a playlist. But if you have Spotify, if you go to Spotify and you type in Steve Stine Downpicking, you'll find a playlist from easy to difficult of just various songs that you can use to focus on your downpicking. And again, maybe you learn the whole song, maybe you don't. And then there's actually one, there's a Steve Stine alternate picking as well. So you could go there. Now, we haven't talked about alternate picking, but you could go there and do that as well. So Steve Stine downpicking, and this song will be in there along with some other ones that you can play as well. So let's see here. Matthew says, I love trying to play along with songs. Same with Breaking the Law and definitely Enter Sandman. You're right. So all those kinds of songs can focus on you developing your abilities, whether it's alternate picking, down picking, sweeping, strumming, all kinds of different things like that. Find songs that not only do you enjoy, but serve a purpose for you to practice. So Rusty says some EVH songs have some great palm muting as well. There's a ton of them. There's literally thousands of songs for you to choose from. So that's the fun part of this, is that we don't have to just turn our guitar playing into scales and arpeggios and theory. And again, I'm not knocking any of those things. They're all important. Don't get me wrong. But in the meantime, we could just have some fun with songs that we enjoy, which is what motivation is all about, that we maybe grew up listening to, or the reason we started playing guitar in the first place, or some new challenging song that we'd like to try. And maybe that song can serve a purpose by giving us certain techniques that we're trying to focus on. Okay, so think about that a little bit. You know, trying to work on something like that. All right, so I got to get going, but I wanted to go live today just to say belated Merry Christmas. We have New Year's coming up. Please stay motivated, and if you're interested, you can always, please subscribe to the channel, obviously, if you haven't. That helps me out enormously. And you can always head over to guitarzoom.com and check out my guitar courses. So everybody, take care, stay positive, and keep practicing, and I'll talk to you again.